The gentleman yields. I now recognize the ranking member on the Cyber Subcommittee. You're still in that role, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Mr. Garbarino.
Glad to see you stay in there.
Yeah.
We're going to come to your community. I think we're going to do a field hearing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, in Palo Alto
cyber work
area
out there.
on cyber, yeah. So I recognize the gentleman from California for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. This committee was stood up to address threats to the homeland after September 11th, something my colleague to the right knows a lot about, being here since its inception. And today I just want to briefly address the question as to whether we are safe today as a country. Because what I'm seeing from this administration is that we are taking our eye off the ball. We had a terrorist attack in New Orleans to start the year. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, other terrorist organizations want to hit us and hit us hard. We've got the Super Bowl this weekend back in New Orleans. We have the World Cup in 2026, and we have the Olympics in 2028 in the United States. There are a lot of prime national security targets. However, what we are seeing are actions from this administration that do not make us safe. The most basic job of government is for people to feel safe. So when President Trump releases 1,600 violent criminals into our communities, people who brutally attack police officers, we should not be surprised that they're already committing crimes. One of them, just last week in Indiana, was pulled over by a police officer and, shocking, didn't want to obey that officer's orders, fought the cop, tried to use his own gun on the cop, and thankfully the cop shot and took that individual down. Others are committing acts of child pornography who have already been released. So are we safe when 1,600 violent individuals are released into the community? No, we are not safe. President Trump is seeking to fire thousands of FBI agents and has already fired many senior officials. Why? Because these individuals happen to work on cases that he was involved with where he was accused of stealing national security secrets and leading a coup against his own government. These federal agents keep their head down and they go where they're assigned. It's not a fantasy football draft. They don't get to pick the cases that they work on. They just do their job and they follow the evidence. But what happens when you take thousands of FBI agents out of the Hoover building? They don't work on terrorism, they don't work on child trafficking, they don't work on public corruption, they don't work on violent crime. So are we safe when we take thousands of cops off the beat to protect us from terrorism? No, we are not safe. The president is seeking to force resignations at the Central Intelligence Agency. These are the best spies in the world who have spent years developing foreign languages, are assigned all over the world, have taken years to train to get necessary experience, and they'll be taken off the beat to find the threats that face us as a country. Are we safe when they are not on their watch? No, we are not safe. And as we speak, Elon Musk, who no one elected, no one asked for, is at the Department of Treasury with a cyber gang with access to every American's tax returns and personal identifying information. So speaking of cyber vulnerabilities, are we safe when unvetted individuals have access to your most precious data, information about your employer, your healthcare, your social security number? No, we are not safe. Our job is to make the American people safer. And Mr. Steyer, if we gut and take off the beat the individuals who are supposed to work at CISA and monitor international cyber attacks against our local businesses, does that make us more able to respond to a cyber attack and protect Americans' data, or less able?
Congressman, as we've covered already, workforces are not improved in terms of their capacity to do their job if they are in crisis, and we have a federal workforce that is in crisis right now. On the issue of cyber issues, it puts us certainly at greater risk, both with respect to the specific cyber talent and more generally the workforce at large. So easy answer is this is not enabling our government to do its job in the way that the civil servants who are there would like to do it.
Great. And I'm all for getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. I support any efforts to do that. But when it comes to national security, we better be pretty damn careful about where we make cuts, because my promise to you is we will be hit if we take our eye off the ball. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize the chairman of our Counterterrorism Task Force Subcommittee, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I now recognize the gentleman from Arizona, one of our border states, Mr. Eli Crane, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and talk with some subject matter experts about the pipeline of our cyber force and how we're going to compete with some of the threats as we see some of our adversaries increasing cyber attacks on the country. I just came from an oversight committee, and now I'm back here, and it's really the same nonsense going on in there. Just want to say to Elon Musk, wow, man, you are really effective, because these guys are completely melting down. You must be doing something right. I think we might need to request some of your funds to get these guys maybe some pallets of tissues, some safe spaces, maybe a couple therapy dogs, because they are absolutely melting down. So good job, Elon. Now I want to cover something that Mr. Swalwell said a couple seconds ago. Mr. Swalwell talked about the responsibilities to protect the American people, because this president pardoned the J6 prisoners, many who had been in prison for several years. It's just funny because I didn't hear that same concern from Mr. Swalwell or many of the Democrats on this committee when then President Biden was allowing hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens, many of whom were criminals, rapists, and murderers, and terrorists coming into this country on a monthly basis. So my point being is, if you want to protect Americans, you can't just do it when it's politically advantageous. I want to start with you, Dr. Russomanno. As the Executive Vice President of Academic Affairs at Memphis and the former Dean of Engineering at Purdue University, I'm sure you were well-versed on developing the cyber workforce. My question is, how is the University of Memphis utilizing programs like CyberCorp, Scholarship for Service programs, to build out the pipeline of the federal cyber warriors?
Thank you, Congressman Crane, for your question. I think it's important to remind everyone what CyberCorp is all about and how it impacts students. One is covering tuition. Another is providing a stipend that enables students not to have to work while they're pursuing their degree. Another is an opportunity to build social capital through networking, through internship fairs and other opportunities to learn more about the federal government and way they can make an impact through cybersecurity. This is a tremendous enabler, if you will. We've talked about how do we get more of our youth involved in cybersecurity. Certainly helping them through their daily living is a fundamental way so they can focus on their studies to help our nation.
Thank you. Next question for Mr. Rashote. According to the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, the cybersecurity school at the Wuhan-based National Cybersecurity Center planned to build 4 to 6 cybersecurity schools by 2027. The CCP has devoted significant resources to building their cyber force, and while the exact number of cyber warriors isn't available, it's safe to estimate that if the CCP issued a directive, it could bring a significant cyber force to bear against the U.S., especially given that according to U.S. Cyber Command, there are only 6,200 personnel across 133 teams working on cyber threats, and CISA at DHS has roughly 3,100 employees. My question is, how can academia, private industry, and the federal government partner together to ensure our cyber workforce pipeline is able to keep pace with the number of cyber warriors our adversaries can churn out?
Thank you for the question. I think that the partnerships between industry and academia are critical, and our approach has been to break down every barrier we can in terms of access to training and education. We've done that at Fortinet by making our entire catalog of training available free to anyone who needs that training, and we've challenged others to do the same.
Thank you. My next question is for you, Mr. Jones. How important is it to utilize American resources within our power grid so that our adversaries aren't getting a foothold in our critical infrastructure similar to Volt Typhoon hack? I was recently watching the Sean Ryan show. The topic was we're in an invisible war with Eric Bethel. My question is, and I'm paraphrasing from the show, how can companies who have a fiduciary responsibility to their investors to gain and seek profit balance that financial responsibility with other factors like patriotism?
Well, I think that the electric cooperatives in our country have a rich history of patriotism, Congressman. So I think we do take that seriously. And the virtues of our mission, service, making sure that we are doing our part to provide reliable power for now almost 50 million Americans, and that's always top of mind for us.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, can I enter this into the record? I know there's been some discussion here about layoffs and buyouts. This is an article, CISA among DHS offices exempted from taking OPM's deferred buyout offer.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentlelady from New Jersey.